I'm in San Francisco, and I've been a bad Gazbot. This is the horror production update. Number 8! Hey, no, this is getting really long. I have a messy head. I can't give you updates like this. Time warp to after haircut, go! And that's right, we've transversed time, space, location, and haircut. I've moved back into the office. It is later tonight, and now I'm ready to give you the skinny. I'm ready to lay it on the line and give it all to you. All what? Well, of course, it's the horror production update. Number 8! Production update number 8! Update! 8! Get it? 8, update, anyway. So, I'm doing there's like a couple of clips here and there, but for the most part I'm doing this like I did last time, where I'm doing a recap at the end rather than daily updates. And it has been another 10-day week, so welcome to another 10-day week, and most of the week, or the 10 days as it were, I did not work on the horror at all. Last time I put up the video was on a Friday, so this period begins Saturday, May 23rd. And I had a caricature job in San Francisco, which is where I just was when I yelled at you. And it was at a super fancy place. It was on the penthouse of the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. And they set me up on the balcony next to a little fountain with like a string quartet next to me. It was super fancy, but everybody there was like crazy down to earth, and like most of them were from England and stuff. And it was fun, and it was a very low-key, low-pressure kind of job. I took a couple goofy photos trying to capture the atmosphere. I failed, but I'll throw those photos up regardless. Pop, pop, pop. Bippity boppity boo. This was the view down into the city, and I was trying to take a better picture without showing the crowds. There's my modest setup. Here I am being shocked by how fancy everything is. That's some kind of crazy lion. This is the front of the building that looked like the United Nations on top of the world. And here's a Polaroid of me drawing that somebody took a picture of. And I was like, boo! And then they gave it to me. Hazoo. Bah, bah, bah. So that's what I did that day. And then, even though it was only like an hour or two job, the hour in and out, it ate a big chunk of my day. Did not work on the horror. So then from Monday to, pretty much all day, all week rather, I didn't work on the horror. I was working on some corporate caricatures. I was working on a Kid Switch page. Actually, I finished Kid Switch page 10 just today, but I did a lot of the work last week. I'll throw that up here. Kid Switch page 10! There's page 10. So, I always feel weird when I'm sitting down because I feel like I want to be standing, but it's easier. The tripod I have doesn't really work from standing. I need to get a new tripod is what I'm saying. So, I did that. I did a bunch of corporate caricatures. I did a couple personal caricatures. I've been doing a lot of caricature work lately, which is relatively easy for me at this point, and it pays relatively well, but I prefer when I'm doing comic work, which is harder and doesn't pay as well. So, there we are. So Saturday, I did the whole week, didn't get anything done on the horror. And Saturday I had that big job in San Francisco. Sunday was Tokusatsu Mania, and Q and one of the other guys who she works with that comes to it normally had to work all day on Sunday on this crazy work project. And another friend got stuck at work, so it was just me and two guys. So we kind of had a half day. I'll throw up some clips of what we watched. It was quite the to-do. Quite the to-do. Oh!
Surprising to use both swords. In your steering wheel. I was trying to predict the brake. I forgot to put in the positive traffic.
Yeah, me too. Wow, you would.
incredibly slow-moving mechas.
Oh yeah, because they're giant, but they're
Well, even when like Rangers got big, it was like still incredibly slow.
And like with Godzilla and stuff, because it's supposed to be all about the huge monstrous nature, but yeah, this is all about like karate and sumo and wrestling.
Yeah, Ultraman, German suplex.
What's that? Oh, I got like shivs. I'm punching you in the eyes.
Yeah.
That ball sack guy does lots of oh shit, and the balls. Oh.
I wanted to get cut.
Look at that. Oh my god, it's so agile.
Kind of looks like a Ferengi too from Star Trek.
It kind of does. The teeth and the giant
Ball head, yeah.
Oh, that was graphic.
Oh my god.
So after we watched that stuff, it was around dinner time. My buddy Ian had to left, and I had to write. I had to write notes for myself to remember this stuff. So me and my other buddy Alex went out and basically did toy shopping all day, which was super fun and like the kind of thing that most people would not do. But we went to every store within like an hour, including Goodwill type stores and everything. And actually, I did get most of the Transformers Combiner Wars Minosaur. I'm just missing the one arm. And actually, I thought he was going to not look great. I think he actually does look pretty good. I thought he was going to be the worst of the Combiner Wars, and I hope that's true because that means the rest of them will be delightful. I'm going to lay him down, otherwise he will fall. So, all this stuff going on, still have not worked on the heart. I'm a terrible person. That's true. That was Sunday. Monday, more client work. Also, I had a bunch of eBay auctions that I had sold that I had to send out and just other random stuff. No work on the heart. Tuesday, once again, hey, I think it's been over a week. I should do an update video. I haven't worked on the horror at all. So I worked on it for 3.5 hours Tuesday. Just, it's like 7 days worth of 30 minutes pooped out of my mind right then. So then Wednesday, had other stuff going on, working on that Kid Switch page, which again I finished, but timelines and whatever. And so I said, let me put it in some more time. So I put in about an hour and a half. Which brings us today, which is Thursday. Did not work on the horror today. I did some other more client work and random things. I also recorded a new episode of Collection DX, the beta show episode 2, which again, like last time, won't be up immediately, but I'll put a link below for when it is. I did not work on the horror yet today. I may or may not do it. I'm going to do this video, and that might be the end of my productiveness for the day. Regardless, crunching the math, it's been 10 days. I put in 5 hours, which is not impressive. It is not amazing. It doesn't make me feel good about myself. However, you do the math, it's 30 minutes a day. So I'm maintaining my 100 days of making comics ratio, although once again, kind of cramming it all in at the end, which I almost kind of prefer because I like when I get in the groove of doing it as opposed to stopping and starting and stopping and starting. My hope was that this week and next week I would start really cranking it up and basically be working on just the horror and the occasional Kid Switch page, except again, more client work, mostly character stuff has come rolling in. I have a few party type jobs I have to get to, but more pressing, I have like 5 corporate caricatures I have to do, and a couple, 4 more for a different corporation, and a new corporate client that I've never worked with has contacted me wanting me to do corporate caricatures. And I'm still talking to them. If it goes through, it's going to be 10 or 12, all of which equals not being able to put as much time in on the horror as I'd like. Hopefully, I could just blow through this stuff and not work on anything else for a week or so. I'm still keeping up the 30 minutes, so I'm still maintaining the 100 days of making comics ethic or ethos or workload or whatever, but I really wanted to do more than that once I got out of it, hoping I'd have less videos, less client work, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, this is where we are at. And what I should do is show you the progress I've made. So I'll show you where I was, I guess, last week, and then where I got to when I put in the 3.5 hours that day. So mainly what I got done was the roughs for this page, which is page 23, the second to last page of issue 1. And I got, panel 2, 3, 4, 5 completely done and 6 worked on. One of the things worth mentioning, though, is I realized there's a thing called the 180 rule, which many of you may know, or if you don't know it by name, you might know it instinctively. And it comes from film cameras and movies, where if you imagine a circle kind of looking down on a room, there's 2 people talking or whatever, you don't want to go more than halfway around that circle. So if you start next to person A, you can go all the way around to person B, but if you sort of jump somewhere else, it's going to act weird. You need to cut to a different scene or make some other kind of transition to make it make sense. And in this scene, After the second panel, it's all the same two people in a room together, so I don't want to break that 180 rule, but I realized that I had, because through the whole conversation, I have Boots on the left and this woman that works there on the right, until the last panel when I have Boots on the right and the woman on the left. And so originally I flipped it, but then that didn't really work with the composition, and it didn't really work with the, more importantly, with the way the lettering was going. It just wasn't going to match up, and there's a lot of dialogue on this page. And so I farted around with it for a while, and I realized what I ended up doing was flipping, instead of the last panel, I flipped to the fifth panel, which still is technically breaking the 180 rule, and it still might technically be considered a failure or wrong or bad, but it was the solution I liked best, because you sort of start in the third panel, Boots is clearly to the left. And then in the fourth panel, Boots is still to the left. We're kind of over her shoulder. It's almost, you know, even with each other in a straight line. Then in the fourth panel, it's an overhead shot, kind of on an angle, and I flipped that one so that when we got to the fifth panel, the fourth and fifth panel match up. So the confusion, if there is any, would be between the fourth and fifth panel, but I felt like I could risk it and chance it, and, you know, again, it's probably technically wrong, but I kind of think it worked okay enough for my purposes. And so that was my acknowledging that a rule exists and compromising on how to best suit it without completely changing everything. So there's that. I made quite a bit of progress, and that was page mainly 23. And then page 24, which is the final page of issue 1. And I have decided I'm going to make an issue 1 as opposed to a chapter of a longer book. I mean, they may eventually be collected into a longer book, but for my own sanity, I need to have an issue out. And so then I started working. The next day, I put in the hour and a half. Mainly what I was doing was setting up the next page with rough text bubbles and things like that, and doing research. And I need to actually design that building, which will probably be the next thing I do, is do like a halfway detailed or final version of this corporate building, and then I'll rough that page, and then I'll go back through and do all the lettering, blah, 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 blah. But I'm nearing the end of the rough phase. So anyway, I'll show you what I did from where I was just a second ago, and then the hour and a half I put in the next day, which was yesterday. So I was basically done except for the last panel, and then I went ahead and finished it up, which I'm going to fade to in a second. But what I wanted to talk about was Boots in that last panel. I ended up redrawing her, specifically her face, a lot. And this happens to me sometimes where I'll just get hung up on a certain detail. Usually it's perspective or something, but sometimes it's an expression. And so here you can see I drew her from the rough, and the anatomy looked weird, the character was off. It was just like a weird drawing. And obviously this isn't the final, but it's far enough from being correct that I didn't want to continue using it moving forward. So I went ahead and redrew it, starting with sort of a rough gesture. You can see I broke it down. It's no longer an actual drawing. It's even less finished than that rough. The problem is I had her looking a little bit too smiley and happy, but I just wanted to make sure I had the anatomy right and the basic structure. I had, for some reason, a real hard time drawing that sort of handkerchief from the profile, so I did this. And then I did a cleanup here, but she looks drugged out or something. She's not... She looks smiling. I wanted her to have kind of like a fake tense smile, like, oh, okay. And I don't know what happened here, but she looked terrible. So I once again went in for the redraw, which we will crossfade to in 2, 3, 7, go. And this is sort of what I landed on, where she sort of looks slightly apprehensive, but she looks basically on model of the character, and, you know, everything's relatively correct there. And now, I realize this is the rough. I have to, at the very least, do one more pass on it, but I feel more comfortable going from this place. Once I was done with that, I went ahead and started working on page 24, which you see here, which is basically just putting in the borders and some rough lettering. Pizza Hut and Domino's as well, Papa John's. So now we are here today, Thursday. Have not worked on the hard today. May not work on the hard today. Who knows? And going forward into next week, I'm gonna have a bunch of client work, so it's unlikely I'm gonna be able to do anything significant on the horror. I will keep working on it, but will I do more than the 30 minutes per day? I don't know. Today evening, it's about 8:30ish. It's almost dark. It's awesome that it's still light out. And I wanted to quick go for a walk in the park, get a little exercise before it got completely dark. But I had my headphones and I was listening to a podcast, Harmontown, if you must know. And while doing that, I was playing some game on my phone, a Field Runner. And it's a tower defense game. It's nothing special. And I was like, oh, I gotta mute the sound on this so I can listen to the podcast. And I'm walking around, and I'm like, man, I might as well be in a sensory deprivation tank. I specifically wanted to walk in the park because it's nicer than a road. I specifically wanted to go out while it was still light out so I could see things and be a part of the world. And yet I covered my ears and I put my eyes on the screen. Now I realize I'm videoing right now, which is me looking at a screen. Arguably I could still hear that bird that was chirping, but I wanted to get this thought out and this point across that, you know, we're sometimes accused of being cyborgs, and being attached to our phones and addicted to our technology, and that's certainly true for some people more than others. Some times of day and days of the week, more so or less so than others. And usually I am on the lower end of that spectrum. I'm certainly part of that cycle, but I'm usually one of the lesser addicted users, one of the less cyborgized. But something happened today. I don't know what was going on, where I was just like, beep, 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 robot. And yet the human part of me still wanted to be out in the world. And so luckily I had this minor epiphany that, oh, I should look around. So I'm going to turn this off and actually look at the park for the remainder of my walk, and I will get back to you with an update later in this video. Kind of ruin the effect of the natural beauty as the car goes by. Also, this is proving I'm still somewhat of a cyborg in that I can't stop filming and taking pictures even though I'm disconnected my ears and my eyes. I have not disconnected my ego, my wanting to be seen and show things. Content, the grinder! Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the last weekend as well, not the same. See, there was 2 weekends. This gets all mixed up timeline-wise. Not the weekend where I did Tokusatsu and the San Francisco job, but the weekend before, which was the beginning of this 10 days, I went to do a Real Escape, which is sort of like a live-action video game-ish. Some are more fun than others. Some are small groups of 5 or 6 or 8. This was like a group of 6 in a room full of like 15 other groups, and it was Escape from the Werewolf Village. And I liked the more intimate ones, but this one was still kind of fun. Did it with a couple friends and a couple people that became friends. And so we did that, but then Fanime, which is the big anime convention in San Jose, which is the town where we went to, the Werewolf Village, was happening that day, and I said, why don't we go swing by there? Not buy tickets or anything, but there's always cosplayers out front, and there were. So we went by and took a bunch of pictures with them, and I'll show you those pictures now. Godzilla Night 4, be there! I will. Gaz with the Gundam. What else will they see at Fanime? How about this SD Gundam today? Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the thing. I can't keep that up. The Studio Ghibli, oh man, I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but there was somebody in that would walk around, but not when I was there. This guy was Kirito from Sword Art Online, and I was like, let me take a picture with you, buddy. And then I was like, oh man, I don't have a sword like you do. And he's like, ha ha. Moving on. On the way out, there was a lot of cool stuff we didn't take pictures of. There's a Gurren Lagann team, which I thought was awesome. And while the girl has showed a lot of skin, the boy was showing some skin too, so I feel like I don't know. I just like that show, so I don't know how else to justify it. Your Psycho Donuts. I'll talk about them in a minute, but I won't say much. So yeah, and then we went to Psycho Donuts, which is this gimmicky donut shop. I'm doing this a lot today. Magic. I'm kind of out of bleh. This is the problem when I do these updates recapping everything. I'm trying to remember what was important that I wanted to talk about, what artistic struggles did I have, what things in the drawings did I do that mattered, was there an interesting thing that happened to me, and what order did it all happen in, and it gets all muddled up. So I need to either take better notes or make more frequent updates, or I could just not sweat it. Maybe I'll just not sweat it. I get a lot of packages in the mail, and my mail carrier is friendly, but often gets the envelope or package or whatever in this little mailbox. Like we have this big one here, but then these are our little personal ones, and these two have been broken forever. So now I sometimes get them in my little one, and they could be scuffed up or damaged or hard to get out. Look at this. Huh? It's the size.
What? What? Ah! I'm gonna go get a spatula.
Well, I'm gonna bring this to a close, and I want you to eat a whole pizza and think of me. Pizza. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about these Convergence Aquaman comics I bought. It's the only Convergence I've read so far. I'm not really up on all the current books in DC or Marvel, but I know they're both having the equivalent of like a big brawl for both of them. But they have these. DC put out a lot of 2-issue like limited series things. So I was willing to give these a shot. I picked Aquaman because I liked this art on the cover. Who I forget who it was. Somebody who's not the interior artist is the main point I'm making. Because the interior art is completely different. And not nearly as good in my opinion, or at the very least, without being judgmental, not to my taste. It's got some weird coloring, and it's not what I wanted. I liked this sort of pseudo-cartoony kind of unique look take on it. And once again, usually I'm not fooled by that, but I ordered these, without seeing them, and so I'm a fool. Also, the story was garbage. He fought death below, and this is junk. Don't get it. I'm not recommending it. I was just saying I thought the covers looked nice. And I'll figure out who the artist is of the cover and put it in the link below so you could, I think it's Sarah something? I don't know. Anyway, for real, goodbye. For real, goodbye. You hang up.